I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine you're just living your life. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not trying to get anyone's attention. You're just living, washing up in the evening the way you do every single day. And then, without you even knowing it, someone is watching you. That someone has more power than almost anyone else on earth. And that one evening changes the entire rest of your life. That's not a movie plot, friend. That is a real story. It happened thousands of years ago, and it's written in the Bible, in the book of Samuel. And today, we're going to walk through it together, slowly, gently, honestly, because this woman deserves that. Her name was Bathsheba. And for a long, long time, people only told half of her story. They told the part about the king, the scandal, the sin, but they left out the part about who she really was, a woman who lost, a woman who grieved, a woman who rose again and became one of the most powerful mothers in the entire Bible. So today, we tell the whole story, not just the sad parts, not just the scandal, but the whole journey, from a rooftop in Jerusalem all the way to a golden throne. Stay with me till the end because trust me, friend, the ending is going to surprise you. Let's begin. Long ago, in a city called Jerusalem, there lived a king named David. Now, if you know anything about David, you know he wasn't always a king. He started out just as a shepherd boy, a boy who took care of sheep on the hills all by himself with nothing but a sling and a few stones. But that same boy grew up, and one day he stood in front of a giant named Goliath, and he won. From that day, David's whole life changed. He became a soldier, then a general, then finally a king. By the time our story begins, David was no longer that young shepherd boy. He was a grown man, sitting on the throne of an entire nation. His armies were strong. His name was known everywhere. People sang songs about him in the streets. But here's something important, friend, something the Bible tells us very plainly. It was the season when kings were supposed to go to war. That's right. Every year when the weather turned, the kings of that land would lead their armies out to battle. That was simply what a king did. But this year, David didn't go. He sent his commander, a man named Joab, to lead the army instead. And David, he stayed home, in the palace, comfortable, safe, with nothing much to do. Now, that might not sound like a big deal to you, friend, but think about it for a second. David was a man who had spent his whole life being busy, running from enemies as a young man, fighting battles, leading soldiers. He was used to having a purpose, a job to do, every single day. But this year, he had nothing to do but rest. And friend, that is exactly where our story takes a turn. One evening, as the sun was going down and the sky was turning orange over the rooftops of Jerusalem, David got up from his bed. He walked out onto the roof of his palace to get some air. From way up there, high above the city, he could see almost everything. And that's when he saw her, a woman bathing on her rooftop, the way people did back then in the evenings. The Bible tells us she was very beautiful. Now listen closely, friend, because this part matters so much. This woman was not doing anything wrong. She wasn't trying to be seen. She didn't know the king was watching. She was just living her ordinary evening the same she did every single day of her life. But David saw her, and instead of looking away, he asked one of his servants, "Who is that woman?" The answer came back fast. Her name was Bathsheba. She was the daughter of a man named Eliam, and she was already married to a soldier named Uriah. Uriah was a Hittite, which means he wasn't even originally from Israel, but he had joined David's army and fought loyally for the king for years. So David was told very clearly in one single sentence, her name, her father, and her husband. He knew she was married, and he sent for her anyway. Now, here's something you need to understand about the ancient world, friend. Something that's really different from today. When a king sent for you back then, you didn't get to say no. There was no phone call you could ignore, no message you could politely decline. If the most powerful man in the entire kingdom sent soldiers to your door and said, "The king wants to see you," you went. You didn't have an army to protect you. You didn't have a vote. You didn't have any power at all. So when messengers came to Bathsheba's home and told her the king wanted her brought to the palace, what choice did she really have? She was brought to the palace, and while her husband was away fighting a war for that very king, David was with her. And then, just like that, she was sent back home. Bathsheba went home, back to her empty house. Her husband, Uriah, was far away, still fighting on the battlefield, still being loyal to a king who had just done something terrible behind his back. And then the days passed, and Bathsheba realized something that filled her with fear. Can you imagine, friend, the fear in her heart in that moment? Her husband had been gone. Everyone would know something was wrong. In that culture at that time, this could have gotten her killed. Truly, this was not a small problem. This was the biggest danger of her entire life. So she did the only thing she could do. She sent a message to the palace, just 3 words in her language, 3 words that carried the weight of her whole world. "I am pregnant." And with those 3 words, everything that happened next was set into motion. But friend, I need you to understand something important here. What happened next was not her fault. It was not her doing. She would simply have to live with the consequences for the rest of her life. When David got Bathsheba's message, he had a choice in front of him. He could have told the truth. He could have said, "I did something wrong and I need to make it right." He could have gone to God and said, "I'm sorry," but he didn't. Instead, he tried to hide it. David sent word to the battlefield, calling for Uriah to come home to Jerusalem. His plan was simple and honestly a little sneaky. If Uriah came home and spent a night with his wife, everyone would just assume the baby was his. No questions, no danger, problem solved, right? Uriah arrived in Jerusalem. David greeted him warmly, asked him how the battle was going, how the soldiers were holding up, how his commander Joab was doing. Then he told Uriah to go home, relax, and enjoy some time with his wife. But Uriah didn't go home. Instead, he slept outside at the entrance of the palace with the other guards and servants. When David found out, he was confused. He asked Uriah, "Why didn't you go home?" And Uriah gave an answer that honestly should make all of us stop and think for a second. He said something like this: "My commander and the soldiers of Israel are out in open fields right now, sleeping on the ground. The Ark of the Covenant is out there too. How could I go home, eat a nice meal, and lie comfortably with my wife while they are suffering out there? I could never do that." Friend, in that one single moment, without even meaning to, a humble soldier from a foreign land showed more honor and integrity than the king of Israel himself. David tried again the next night. He invited Uriah to dinner, made sure the wine kept flowing, hoping that maybe if Uriah got a little drunk, he would finally go home. But even then, Uriah still would not go inside his own house. His loyalty simply would not let him. And so David's plan had failed. The secret wasn't going to hide itself that easily. Friend, I want you to notice something here. David had a chance, 2 whole chances, to just stop, to tell the truth, to ask for forgiveness before things got even worse. But instead, he kept digging deeper and deeper into his own mistake. So David did something far, far worse. He wrote a letter that would seal Uriah's fate. He sent it straight to his commander out on the battlefield, and he had Uriah carry that letter himself without knowing what was written inside. Can you imagine that, friend? Uriah carried his own death sentence in his own hands, and he didn't even know it. The letter told Joab to put Uriah on the front line where the fighting was the fiercest, and then to suddenly pull the other soldiers back, leaving Uriah alone and exposed. And that is exactly what happened. In the middle of the battle, Uriah the Hittite fell. He died, defending a kingdom whose king had just betrayed him in the worst possible way. When the news reached Bathsheba that her husband was dead, she mourned. The Bible tells us this simply, but it means so much. Whatever their marriage had been like, whatever their story was, Uriah was her husband, and now he was gone. He died far away, on a battlefield, never knowing the real reason why. She grieved for him the way anyone grieves the person they've lost. And when the time of mourning finally ended, David sent for her again and brought her into the palace to become his wife. She had a son. The palace doors closed behind her, and inside those walls, Bathsheba now had to find a way to keep living, carrying grief and fear and uncertainty all at the very same time. But friend, here's where the story takes a turn that changes everything. The Bible adds one small sentence right here, a sentence that might be easy to miss, but it is so important. The thing David had done displeased the Lord. God had been watching this entire time, every moment on that rooftop, every part of the cover-up, every word in that terrible letter. God saw all of it. And he was not finished with this story, not even close.
Before we continue, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you never miss our next Bible story. And if you did like access to the character prompts that keep every scene and character consistent, simply scan the QR code or check the link in the description. Now, let's get back to our story, because the best is reserved for last.
God sent a prophet named Nathan to go and speak to King David. Now, Nathan didn't walk in and shout at the king. Instead, he told him a story. He said there once was a rich man with huge flocks of sheep and cattle, more than he could ever need. And there was a poor man who had just one little lamb. That lamb was like a member of his family. It ate from his plate. It slept in his arms. He loved it like a daughter. One day, a traveler came to visit the rich man's house, but instead of taking one of his own many sheep to feed his guest, the rich man took the poor man's one little lamb. He killed it, and he served it for dinner. When David heard this story, he was furious. He said the man who did that deserved to die, and that he should pay back 4 times what he took. And then Nathan looked David straight in the eyes and said 4 words that must have hit like thunder. "You are that man." Can you imagine that moment? The king, who thought he had gotten away with everything, suddenly realizing that God had seen it all along. Nathan told David the truth, plainly. You were given everything a man could want, and still you took what wasn't yours. You had a loyal, honest man killed, and you took his wife for yourself. David didn't argue. He didn't make excuses. He simply said, "I have sinned against the Lord." And Nathan told him that God had forgiven his sin. He would not die for what he'd done. But then came the hardest part. The baby, the son that had been born, would not survive. The child became very sick. David fasted. He wept. He lay on the ground for 7 days straight, begging God to let the little boy live. But on the 7th day, the baby died. I want us to slow down right here, friend, because this is one of the most painful parts of Bathsheba's whole story. She had already lost her husband. Now she lost her baby too. a baby she had carried inside her, a baby she loved from the very moment she knew he was coming. Gone. The Bible doesn't write down her words in this moment. We don't get to read her cries or her prayers or the questions she must have asked God in the middle of the night. But friend, we don't need the exact words to know how much this hurt. She was a mother who lost her child, and nothing makes that pain small. But then something happened that surprised everyone in the palace. David got up off the ground, he washed himself, he changed his clothes, he went to worship God, and then he asked for food. His servants were shocked. They said, "You fasted and cried while the baby was alive, but now that he's gone, you get up and eat?" And David gave an answer that still teaches people something powerful today. He said, "While the child was alive, I fasted, hoping God might be gracious and let him live. But now that he's gone, crying won't bring him back. One day I will go to him, but he cannot come back to me." And then David went to comfort Bathsheba. And not long after, Bathsheba became pregnant again. She gave birth to a son. They named him Solomon. And the Bible tells us something beautiful right here, friend, something that still gives me chills. God loved this child. He sent word through the prophet Nathan, giving the baby a second name, Jedediah, which means beloved of the Lord. Out of the darkest, saddest season of both their lives, God gave them a baby marked by his love. Bathsheba held that little boy in her arms, and for the first time in a very long time, she must have felt something other than grief. She must have felt hope. Years passed. Solomon grew from a baby into a young man, but the palace around him grew more and more dangerous. King David was getting old now, and in his final years, the household was full of conflict, just like the prophet Nathan had once warned. One of David's older sons even led a rebellion against his own father. As David got older and weaker, everyone in the kingdom started asking the same big question: who is going to be the next king? David had many sons, and one of them, a son named Adonijah, decided not to wait for an answer. He declared himself the next king. He gathered followers, he threw a big celebration feast, acting like the throne was already his. But there was a problem. David had made a promise a long time ago to Bathsheba that her son, Solomon, would be the one to rule after him. When Bathsheba heard what Adonijah had done, she didn't panic. She didn't sit back and wait for someone else to fix it. She stood up and she acted. She went straight to King David. She walked into his room and bowed before him, and she calmly, clearly laid out exactly what was happening. She reminded him of the promise he had made. She told him that if this wasn't fixed right away, she and her son Solomon could both be in terrible danger the moment David was gone. David listened to every word. He called for the prophet Nathan, a priest named Zadok, and a commander named Benaiah, and he gave a clear command: take Solomon, anoint him as king over Israel right now. Let the trumpets ring out, let the people shout, "Long live King Solomon!" And that is exactly what happened. Trumpets rang out across Jerusalem. The whole city erupted in celebration, so loud that it said the very ground shook with the noise of it. Over at Adonijah's feast, the music and laughter suddenly stopped because everyone there understood exactly what that sound meant. Solomon was king now, and Bathsheba was the one who made it happen, not with an army, not with tricks or lies, but with the simple, powerful courage to walk into a room and tell the truth. When Solomon officially became king, something remarkable happened, something that had probably never happened quite like this before. Solomon was now the most powerful man in the entire nation. He would go on to become known as one of the wisest men who ever lived, so wise that rulers from other countries traveled far and wide just to hear him speak. And when his mother walked into the room, Solomon stood up from his throne. He bowed to her. He had a second throne brought in and placed right beside his own, at his right hand, the highest position of honor in the entire kingdom. And there she sat, Bathsheba, honored, respected, listened to. The same woman who had once been a young girl on a rooftop being watched without her knowledge was now seated in the place of highest honor beside the King of Israel. Everything that had been done to her did not define her. Everything she had lost did not finish her, friend. The grief, the fear, the years of surviving inside a dangerous palace, it didn't break her. It shaped her. It built inside her a wisdom and a strength that could never have come any other way. And here's something amazing. Many Bible scholars believe that the famous words of wisdom found in the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, the ones a mother taught her son about being a good king, about choosing honesty, about caring for the poor and speaking up for people who have no voice, many believe those words belonged to Bathsheba. A mother's voice, still teaching, still guiding, written right into the Bible for the whole world to read forever. Think about that for a moment, friend. The very same woman who was once talked about only in whispers, only in connection to a king's mistake, became the woman whose words may have shaped the wisest book ever written. Her voice didn't disappear. It grew louder across thousands of years, still speaking to us today. Bathsheba's story is one of the hardest, most complicated stories in the whole Bible. For a very long time, people only talked about her in connection to what David did to her. Her own feelings, her own faith, her own incredible strength were often left out completely, like she was just a small part of someone else's story. But friend, God never saw her that way. He gave her a son marked by his own love. He gave her a seat of honor beside a throne, and he wrote her name into one of the most important family lines in all of history, the ancestors of Jesus himself. In the Gospel of Matthew, right there in the very first chapter, her name is remembered among the mothers who came before Jesus. Not erased, not forgotten, not defined by the worst thing that ever happened to her. Remembered, honored, redeemed. There is something in Bathsheba's story for every single person listening right now who has ever been pulled into pain they didn't cause. Every person who has grieved a loss that wasn't their fault. Every person who has had to rebuild their whole life inside walls they never chose to walk into. If that's you today, friend, I want you to hear this clearly. God sees you. Not the way the world sees you, not through the eyes of the people who hurt you or ignored you or reduced you down to just one bad moment in your life. He sees your whole story. He sees the parts you're proud of and the parts you wish had never happened. He sees the nights you cried alone and the mornings you got up anyway, even when it felt impossible. And he is not finished writing it. Bathsheba didn't ask for the story she was given, but she walked through every single chapter of it with a quiet dignity that still speaks thousands of years later. She grieved without letting it destroy her. She endured without becoming bitter. She built a beautiful life in the space she was given, and she raised a son the whole world still quotes to this very day. And in the end, she sat beside a throne that she helped build. Not through cruelty, not through revenge, through courage. So friend, if your life has been shaped by something someone else did to you, if you're carrying a grief you never asked for, if you've had to build a life out of pieces you never chose, I hope Bathsheba's story reminds you of this one simple truth. What was taken from you is not the end of your story. Thank you so much for walking through this story with me today. If it touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss the next one, because friend, we are just getting started. Until then, take care of yourself, friend, and remember, your story isn't over yet either.